Hey everyone, Erin with WSI Digital Solutions Group and the Building Brevard Network, back with Dr. Grimm. We had some technical difficulties, as any live video would have, I'm sure. So we appreciate your patience, and we're going to start the interview over just because I want to make sure everybody can have as much information on Dr. Grimm as possible. So again, Dr. Grimm is a chiropractor here in Merritt Island, and he helps people improve their quality of life and get back to their normal routine after some pretty significant stuff. So Dr. Grimm, go ahead and give us your background again and tell us a little bit how you got into chiropractic.
Okay, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I moved down here in the early 90s, and I was started to play rugby to meet more people and kind of network. And what happened was I actually got injured and actually had a whiplash. So what happened is I got neck pain, back pain, then eventually I started getting numbness down into my arms. And what happened was someone told me, you really should go see a chiropractor, and I had no idea what a chiropractor was.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, and they said, yeah, well, they'll take a picture and they'll give you an adjustment. And I said, well, what's an adjustment? I had no clue. So to make a long story short, I ended up doing that, and I was amazed with the results that I actually got, that I changed my career, because I was getting a degree in biology and I wanted to carry that on and get a PhD in molecular biology and teach and do lecture at university. So I changed my career and I ended up traveling up to Davenport, Iowa, packed everything into my little Honda Civic and just traveled up there, and I got to play rugby. I had a scholarship to play rugby. We won the Midwest Championship while I was there, and went to the National Championship, and just had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And you said you went to Palmer Chiropractic School?
Yep, Palmer College of Chiropractic.
Okay, and they have one in Kansas City as well, right? Or is there one?
I think that's Cleveland.
Oh,
that's
Cleveland. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Cause, I'm originally from Kansas City, so we had had some drive-bys while we were there.
I played rugby in
Overland
Park.
I'm sure you did. So you say that you help people who are sick and tired of taking drugs and going to doctors. So how can chiropractic care help people get away from doctors and get away from those drugs that may be causing them some discomfort?
And what we do is we get down to the root cause of people's problems. I know a lot of people will take drug after drug, pill after pill. They'll try this, they'll try that. And really what we do as a chiropractor is get down to the real root cause of the problem. We find it, we fix it, and then we let the body heal on its own. So that's what really makes us different from, say, the medical model. So we don't want to cover up problems, we don't want to gloss it over, we don't want to kind of dumb it down, we don't want to numb it. I mean, I think we all know that we have a big opiate problem in the country, and especially in this area. I mean, it leads to heroin, and it's just very sad. So we want to be able to get out there in the community. We do a lot of talking, we do a lot of lectures, we do lunch and learns at businesses. We do concussion talks at schools and at booster clubs and different organizations. So I think it's really important to be able to give back to the community, to educate people, and let them make an educated choice on what they want to do with their healthcare.
Yeah, and you talked about concussions, and we'll get to that hot topic here shortly. One thing I do want to talk to you about before we get into all of that is, what are some of the most common ailments that people come in with when they come to see you, or some things you notice or trends that come about, lower back pain, sciatica? Talk us through what those look like.
Well, I mean, I think obviously everyone knows that chiropractic's really good with neck and low back pain. What they may not know that we're really good at is headaches, migraines, carpal tunnel, numbness and tingling in the arms or the legs, sciatica and disc problems. I believe that a lot of people just don't understand the really what chiropractic's all about. Everyone thinks that we're a spine doctor, and that's not necessarily true. What we are is we're a nervous system doctor. We deal with the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves that come out through that spine, because that really is what gives life to the rest of the body. It's the most important system. You can live 30 days without food, 3 to 5 days without water, probably about 5 to 10 minutes without air, but without nervous function, you don't live at all.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I've never heard anybody relate their chiropractic care to being a nervous system. kind of pulling themselves away from just the spinal ailments and talking about, well, there's so much that happens within that spinal line that affects everything you do.
Absolutely. We just use that spine as levers that we push and pull to be able to affect what that is actually protecting. That's why you have more bone around your spinal cord and your brain than any other organ, because it's the most important. So we use that to tap into that nervous system to affect the way it's working, because the brain really controls everything. And what it does is it sends messages down through the spinal cord and out the nerves. It's nothing more than an electrical system. And then it gets feedback, and then the brain processes it. So whenever those bones in the spine are misaligned to the point that they're not moving properly, then it interferes with the way the nerves work as they go out. Now it can give you multiple type of symptoms, whether it's going to the muscles of the low back and you get spasms, or it goes down the leg and you get the sciatica, or maybe you're just getting numbness in the feet, or it's going to the stomach and you're getting digestion, acid reflux, those type of issues. I've seen a lot of people that have subluxations in the low back, and if you're a woman, that can affect your periods and your menstrual cycles, so it can be painful periods. So it's really a really fun profession to be in, because you get to see the results.
Yeah.
It's so exciting when you give people that opportunity to live their life through their nervous system and live it healthy, and I'm just happy to be part of it.
Well, it's amazing to think of how many people just suffer and drudge through pain because they think that that's just the way of life. Like they just, well, I've had this lower back pain for 10 years. Well, I don't think it's going to go away. Well, why don't you try something different, right? So if the conventional ways aren't necessarily helping you, if you're, again, sick of seeing the doctors and taking all the pain meds, what is kind of a typical turnaround time for people? I'm sure that's a varying question, and
how long is a piece of string?
Right. So
it depends on how. And this is what we do: is in our office is we really sit down with the patient and we discuss. Okay, what's going on? What sort of problems do you have? How long has it been going on? Is it all the time, or does it come and go? How many episodes of this problem have you had? Is it getting worse? And then we get into, okay, what's the quality? What's the quality of the symptoms? Is it sharp? Is it burning? Does it travel anywhere? Does it affect any other parts of the body? Are you getting indigestion? Are you getting other issues, or weakness, numbness? So we go really in depth and try to discover and pull back the layers. And then I think one of the most important is we talk about our patients and talk about goals. What do you want? What are you looking for? I understand that you have pain, and a lot of people have pain, and it's been going on for years and years, but why are you coming in today? Mm-hmm. Why do you want to get rid of your pain? What is it interfering with? Is it interrupting you from being a great dad or a mom? Is it interrupting you from picking up your grandchildren? Is it not allowing you to sit at work and get things done? What does it do? So let's not only take care of the symptoms that you came in with, but how it's affecting your life. And that's how we want to really add to the value of the community. And like I said before, we want to help as many individuals as we can, because chiropractic does amazing things.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. It certainly sounds like you're very passionate about what you do, and that's always nice to see. People that we can go and have conversations with, and you can just feel that passion in there. So one thing that we did talk about a little bit before was concussions, and that's kind of a hot topic now because of everything that's happening. People are becoming so much more aware of it, and even with my coaching, before I even got on the court with the girls for tryouts, we had to do this concussion awareness course, and it's such a hot topic. So one thing we talked about before the show was that there's something like a preseason test that you would advise people do. So why don't you talk us through what the preseason test is and how that can benefit people?
Sure. What we do is we actually do a baseline test. So it's being able to see how the student athlete is prior to the season, and then if they do have any incidents, then we can test them against themselves. So we kind of call it a health selfie, so to speak. So we know where they're at, where they started, and what they are afterwards. And then we can determine. So we have the only FDA-approved testing. It gives us an objective number, 1 to 100. So that way it's not how I think they are, how I feel. It's just an objective number. So we get that number. It tests lots of different things. It tests their balance, it tests their coordination, their eye-hand coordination. It comes up with a solid number. You know, a lot of the testing in the past has been pretty archaic. You know, when I was playing rugby, if you got your bell rung, they said, how many fingers do I have up?
Right.
It was always 2. Okay. You know, what day is it? Well, I always played rugby on Saturday, so it was Saturday. And that's the way it was. And then we came into where the NFL uses the best technique, the BSS technique. And you know, if you want NFL results for your kids, by all means use the best technique. It's terrible. And then we came into now is the impact testing, which is what a lot of the schools do, but it's always after the fact.
Right.
It's after they've had an incident. It's after they've been hit. So now you're testing the cognition of the student. They're on a computer, but it doesn't test a lot of the other aspects that really give us a lot of insight into the student athlete.
Wow. And so the impact test, that preseason test, can be that benchmark for if something happens that is perceived to maybe be something significant, then you have something to compare it to. Like you said, it's like apples to apples. You're comparing you to you, and that's probably a reassuring thing for most parents, is to know, okay, well, was it like this before? How bad is it? I mean, I think that's a huge concern, and not just for parents, but for athletes as well.
Well, and also we can test, potential athletes that may have had, their bell rung, so to speak, a season, 2 seasons before, and we can test them and we can say, listen, you're below this benchmark. There is something happening. We need to investigate that even more.
Yeah.
So it's really useful for the student, because really at the end of the day, as an athlete, you were an athlete, I was an athlete, all we want to do is get out and play.
Yeah.
We love it. We love the sport.
Still do.
Still do. No, I'm too old to play rugby now.
Oh yeah, sure.
But as a parent, we really want everyone to be safe. And then when it comes to the coaches, they just want to field the best team. They want to win.
Yeah.
So you have all these different pushing forces, and I think once you have an objective test, it makes life much more straightforward.
Yeah, and I think it's just a great thing for kids to have, and it's such a hot topic. And even before the show, you said something that it's not really the first concussion you're worried about; it's the second or the third, and that's where you see the really significant impact on development and awareness.
We see that in 2016. There was 18 deaths because of the second concussion, and really, the first concussion has impact. I mean, it affects their actual performance, because we know that after concussions, they're 4 times more likely to have an ACL and meniscus tears because of the proprioception, the body's ability to figure out where they're at in space. Okay, we say that the writing mechanism is wrong in the athlete, because it's giving him false information, and the brain's not picking that up because of the concussion.
Right.
Or even if it's not even a concussive force, if they say the bones in their neck, it'll give them different information. Because you've got to have, just to give people a reference point of concussion, whiplash occurs between 4 and 10 G's of force. And whiplash can be painful. Now, in concussion, that happens at over 90 G's of force.
Oh my goodness.
So if you think of it as like kind of a tomato, ripe red tomato inside of a glass jar, as that is moving and it suddenly stops, that tomato continues to move and it smacks inside of the jar. That's where you get the bruising, the contusion, and you get bleeding. So then it affects not only the performance, like with increased ACL tears, Tommy John surgeries, but it also affects their scores. It affects their high school scores, their SAT scores.
I'd imagine so, yeah.
There's been longitudinal studies. It's been published in pediatrics. So there's a lot of great information out there, and people are less likely to go to college because of that.
Yeah.
And if it can, the student withdraws, they can become depressed, and it's really sad. So I think this topic of concussion is really hot ever since the movie. and we really need to step up our game and be able to go out and check these student athletes and get a baseline.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And you offer that baseline testing here. So if anyone is interested in getting that baseline testing, that's definitely where you should go. So for just normal people, not someone that's just been concussed, because that's obviously a totally different ballgame. You know, you talked about your assessment and how you kind of help them get their goals, but you also do some other things. You do an exam, you do some x-rays to help you get an idea of actually what's going on physically.
Absolutely. And what's great is we have really specific techniques with our x-ray where we can really show the patients exactly where their subluxations are. So a subluxation is that misalignment of the spine that doesn't allow it to move properly, and that's irritating that nerve. And we can show it on an x-ray, and we can count the number of subluxations that we have. And once we get an idea of where they're at, then we can put them on a corrective care program where at the end of that corrective care, then we can re-x-ray the patient, we can show them the reduction and the elimination of the subluxations, so that way we have a real objective tests. So it's great, and that's why how we're garnering a lot of trust with the medical doctors, because we're really speaking their language. Right. It's all in black and white. It's not what I think, it's not how I feel, it's just an objective test. Here we go, here's before, here's after, this is what we accomplished, along with, you know, reaching their goals of being able to tie their shoes again, being able to pick up their kids, being able to now run a 5K, whatever it may be, because everyone has different objectives, and that's what's really fun. You know, a 25-year-old athlete may have different objectives from a grandmother. So it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it.
That's amazing. There's some people that probably have some misconceptions about chiropractic, right?
Sure, absolutely.
One thing I think people have a fear of kind of how jarring it could be. You know, some people are afraid that they just don't know what to expect. Is there anything that you tend to help people with those kind of that first time anxiety, or trying to help put those people at ease when they come into your office?
Absolutely. I think, you know, one of the big misconceptions is that, you know, we all know it, chiropractors are quacks. They're not properly educated. They're, you know, I don't think in this day and age, with the amount of education that we receive, we go through the same amount of education as a medical doctor would do. We do all the you know, science and the biology and the microbiology as we would. Now we specialize more in the orthopedics type of side of things, more with the x-ray analysis, with some of the adjustive techniques. We don't get into a lot of pharmacology because we don't prescribe drugs. Right. It's not what we want to do. So that's where some of the misconceptions can be, but also that's why we do a thorough evaluation to make sure that you are the right person for chiropractic.
Sure.
You know, we want to sit down and talk to them. We want to do a thorough examination. We want to do x-rays to make sure that, you know, they have a spine that is able to be adjusted. You know, I think it's really important to make sure that even before we start, that we know what we're doing. We've got everything. We're not doing any guesswork. We do not do guesswork in this office.
Yeah.
So we want to be really thorough.
Yeah, and I think that speaks a lot to kind of what your process looks like, from the assessment to the exam to the x-rays. You're approaching it very analytically, and like as a process, and then putting them on that plan like you had said. So
exactly.
The best way to get in touch with you to book an appointment or ask any questions would be to what?
You can give a call to our office. It's 321, obviously it's a Brevard area code, but 459-9400.
And you have any special offers or anything you're offering? You say you run free consultations, and that's really the best way to get in and meet with you and sit down with you and chat.
Absolutely. I mean, the best way that I can know if I can help you is if we sit down and talk. So it's always been a free consultation in our office. You know, I always have time for people in the community that we can sit down knee to knee and say, hey, what's going on? What's your concerns? What do we need to accomplish to help you to achieve your goals and achieve your aspirations so you can have the best life possible? You know, medicine's really great at extending life. Chiropractic's really good at giving you more quality of life.
Yeah, I can certainly see that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Apologies for the technical difficulties, everybody, but it was great to chat with you. And again, you're super passionate about what you do, and that's always an engaging conversation to have. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
Take care.